Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Smart Money Show. My name is Daman Akhtar and as usual I'm joined by Ali Suleiman. How's it going?
I am good, bro. As you said, we are at a new sort of spot as we promised our listeners and viewers in Australia, more in-person episode coming your way. But yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's just normally our in-person episodes you'd see they're either a university campus if it's a student or it's an in-person office if it's a professional. But then our today's professional guest got us a special studio, so thanks to him. But I guess this is a nice time for you to intro the guest for today, Ali.
Yeah, 100%. So our guest today, a brief intro, very simply put in one line, but there will be more, is someone who turns dreams into reality. He's a musician who has been playlisted on national radio, a startup co-founder with a novel idea, and an investment banker who is also a chartered accountant with experience on the buy side. Beyond his professional achievements, he has been a strong advocate for diversity throughout his life and continues to champion new ideas and ways of thinking. And his goal is to leave a lasting legacy, one that drives continuous improvement and ensures the world is a better place, which we can clearly see as he's joining us on the podcast today. Before we get chatting to Harry Billen, in this episode we'll explore his journey from his background and early interest in finance to his diverse career across different roles in the industry. We'll discuss his experiences working on both the buy side and sell side, a rarity in the industry, his ventures outside of finance in music and entrepreneurship, and his vision for the future. But of course, we'll be sharing invaluable advice for students like us looking to carve out their own path in any industry. So without further ado, Harry, how are you?
Very good, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us. Again, I say, because you joined us on our very first episode, our very first industry roundtable, and we thought your story is too unique that we had to highlight you on our own episode. So, Lamar, do you want to kick things off with the first question?
Yeah, so of course we're going to start off with as usual, just to kind of kick things off, the background and educational journey of Harry. So, what was it like growing up and how's the educational journey been like?
Yeah, so I was born in Huddersfield, Yorkshire, and to be honest, I was a naturally smart kid. I basically just didn't do it. I was lazy, really lazy, didn't do much work, always compared to sort of my cousins who were 5-6 years older than me, and they did very well. So naturally, everyone thought I was going to do a lot better. Did my GCSEs, and to be honest, I think I was naturally smart. I always say this to people, don't stop reading. I think reading personally makes you sort of intake information a lot quicker than the normal, like if you don't read. So I used to read so much as a kid, and I think that's why I was naturally smart personally. As soon as I stopped reading, so my last proper book I read was Harry Potter. So as soon as I stopped reading Harry Potter, I became dumb. I'll be real, and not dumb, but in terms of taking in information. So I did my GCSEs, and they were decent compared to the rest of my school because I went to a state school, but they weren't as good as I was expected to get. So my sixth form head was annoyed with me because they wanted to push me to Oxbridge, but they were like, "You're not going to get here with these grades." I was like, "All right, cool." So first year sixth form, didn't really take it seriously. Got my AS level results, and honestly, they were crap. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not actually going to get into decent uni." So I turned it around a little bit in second year of A level, but managed to get into Newcastle, not even getting the grades to get into Newcastle, so I don't know how I got into my course, but I got into a undergrad masters at maths at Newcastle, and yeah, so did that for a few years. Whilst I was at uni, I started my own business there, applying for grad scheme, applying for spring weeks, applying for internships. I actually started to apply to spring weeks too late because no one knew about them when I was doing it, so I didn't get any of there, didn't get any summer vacays, didn't get any internship experience whatsoever. Graduated and I was like, right, I want to get into finance, because when I was 18, when I did economics at A level, I was like, I want to be an investment banker. So since then I was like, this is what I want to do. Couldn't get into it, and I was like, I don't want to go a year after uni without graduating without a job. So I was applying for so many jobs, going for so many interviews. Well, I applied for that year, I applied for about 500 jobs. I got 14 interviews. Now the 14 interviews, I got 12 job offers, but none of them were what I wanted. But I ended up taking one which was asset management, middle office role. So it was working at AXA IM. And yeah, I did it just because the money was really good as contracting role. So for someone of my age graduating, earning that much money, I was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer, especially I've not got a job. So did that. Literally within 2 weeks, I realised that I'm too smart for this job. So it was really weird because they were like, yeah, we don't really hire people with that experience. And then when I got there, I was like, why? Because this is so easy. I was basically, without a word of lie, I was copying and pasting for 2 hours a day. And that was it.
Some people would take that.
Yeah, but when you're young, you don't want that. You want to be challenged, right?
Yeah.
So I said, we basically we had a restructure after 3 months, and I got a new boss, and he had a chat with me. And he was frank. He said, "Look, you're overqualified for this role." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, "He's like, what's your plans?" I said, "I'll be real with you." And this is where the thing is, you have to suss it out just based on person by person. I wouldn't say this is the thing to do for everyone because it's not. But I realized that he was quite honest and he liked me in a way. And I said, "Look, I'll do a year here because it's my first job, but I will be looking after that."
Fair.
And he could have fired me then,
Yeah.
but he didn't. Ironically, he actually offered me a pay rise about 2 weeks later, which is weird. Anyway, but anyway, what he did was really nice of him. He actually set up coffee meetings for me with certain people in the business because he wanted to keep me at AXA.
Right.
So I was going for coffee meetings with different parts of the business. And to be honest, one thing really good about my role, I was in touch with fund managers, I was in touch with the salespeople, I was in touch with client services, and the product team as well. So I got to understand loads of different bits of asset management. Anyway, after that, I spent just under 2 years there. I managed to get actually a front office role, institutional client relationship manager at a fund of funds house. So this was primarily a retail house, but they were building out the institutional team. So yeah, I was part of a new team, and it was great because when you're part of a new team, one thing that it does do, it means that you're going to have to put in more work, but that provides opportunity. So you're going to get a lot more exposure that you don't get in sort of for instance, if you go to like a big bank, like a JPM, you're going to be siloed a lot of the time. You're only going to work on one certain thing. If you're in a smaller firm, although your benefits in terms of rewards won't be as much, you'll get the exposure. So I did that. And yeah, so I did that and then was there literally, I loved my job. I don't really know what I did because I felt like I was doing nothing. Okay, so I was playing for grad schemes every year because I still wanted to get onto a grad scheme in a bank. I was getting rejected year after year after year. And then I was like, you know what? After 3 years of doing that, I was like, I'd never want to do audit, but let me just try the audit route. So I managed to get an offer from RSM, actually at the same time that I applied for that second job. I didn't really want it. So I was like, can you defer me for a year? So I got it deferred for 1 year. And then, so I did that other job in that time. And the reason I gave for a deferral was because I'm going to do a corporate finance master's. So while I did while I was at Architas doing my job full time, I also did a corporate finance master's full time at the same time. Didn't tell the other one that was in full time because I think that's illegal. So I don't think you're allowed to do 2 full times at the same time. Allegedly. Yeah. But yeah, so I managed to do that somehow. And yeah, so I did okay in my masters. I thought that would help me. To be perfectly honest, I got 1 interview at a bank at ING, and I thought I was well prepared for it, and because I'm generally good at interviews. It was competency based and technical based. There was 2 separate interviews. Had the technical one first, which I was a bit scared of, but I did well in that. Had a competency afterwards, but the guy flipped it into a technical, and I wasn't prepared for it. And he literally, but he just full on dissed me as well. So I was like, I didn't even wait to hear back. I was like, I have not got this. But yeah, that was the only one I got. One thing that the main reason why I just want to touch upon is why I didn't get a grad job is my A-levels. So as I've said before, like my A-levels weren't great. I don't know what it is like now applying for jobs, but when I was applying for jobs, there was a big thing on A-levels.
Still
is it?
Yeah, even for summers, it's like if you don't have them, might as well just call it. Like my A-level grades on what I wanted, I still got onto my E like you didn't, but I just like, if I got that a little bit higher, and then so much easier for me to break into the bottom office and the boutiques. But again, it wasn't meant to be. But still, it's very, very, very big focus. Even more so than your uni grade.
Yes, I agree. And that, yeah. So what annoyed me was the reason why I actually did that corporate finance masters at CAS, it was called then when I did, not Bays, was because I went to an Evercore open day, and there was a guy who they said basically he was like their standout graduate that year. And he'd done corporate finance masters at CAS. So I was like, basically I mentally I always take notes. I always say to people, take notes. everywhere you go, whether that's on a pen and paper, whether even if it's on your phone, it's socially acceptable to an extent now to do it on your phone. Because I can't read my own writing, so I just do it on my phone. So I was literally in that whole presentation just taking notes on my phone. People probably thought I was texting, but I wasn't. And what I did was then I researched him, looked up on him, and then next year when I went to the same open day, when I was networking afterwards, networking is very key, but it's about who you network with. So it's not just about chatting to people who you just like. Chat to people who, and you need to know when to move on as well. So I spoke to the head of HR and I name dropped this guy and I was like, oh, I'm doing masters at Cass, and I can't remember, his name was Joss, I think his name was. As soon as I said that, this woman, like, I saw her like eyes like, oh, okay, cool. She was like, let me take your name and your number or whatever, and she was like, I'll guarantee you get an interview. I was like, all right, calm. So I was like, all right, cool. But then what happened is, so I applied, like I've been applying for Evercore for 3-4 years now. Applied, I'd always just get rejected straight away just on my A-levels. I got through to a telephone interview, so I was like, this is the first I've ever been. Yeah. Had a telephone interview with Dartmouth Partners because they outsource it. Did well. They were like, we're going to set up a formal interview for you. I was like, all right, calm. Then right at the end, she was like, oh, by the way, on your CV, you didn't have your A-level grades. I was like, she was like, what are they? And I was like, all right, cool, this is it. And then I was like, I'm not going to get back to you. Yeah, and then basically the 2-3 weeks went by, I didn't hear anything. And then I tried to get in touch with them. No one answered me. Got in touch with the head of HR. Within like literally 10 minutes, I got a call from Dartmouth Partners. And they're like, yeah, so basically it's your A-levels. I was like, right. And I was like, yeah, but I've got a master's in corporate finance. And she was like, yeah, you're probably more qualified for this role than others, but this is our benchmarks. At that point, I was like, are you kidding? I was like, I've basically done this master's, paid for it myself as well, for absolutely nothing.
I think it's always to jump in, but I think it's sad in a way, because for some people, their turning point is after sixth form. Yeah. And they start to, like, maybe if they're messing around in sixth form, but they just didn't lock in, or they just things didn't click with them. That sometimes happens after sixth form, and then they'll be like, but they don't get rewarded in this industry anyway. They don't get rewarded for that. It's just sad that you did the masters, but you still didn't meet their benchmark.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I've got 2 masters, right? I've got a master in maths and a master in corporate finance. I'm like, yo, this is mad. Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I said that RSM offer is looking a bit more like fruitful now. And then it's basically, you know what? At that point, I was like, I might stay in asset management, but I was always harboring interest to go into IB. I was like, when I say I'm going to do things, I always do it. So basically, we had an internal restructure, and my boss got demoted, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, if he gets demoted, what's going to happen to me in a year's time? So I was like, this is the point I got to bounce. Yeah. So I was called up RSM. I was like, yeah, can I join this whatever, August, whatever? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I went to RSM, did the audit grad scheme. It was fine. Did the ACA. They're very strict. I would say to anyone, try to pass everyone first time, because I saw a lot of people get sacked at RSM just for failing on their first attempt by 1 mark, and they're brutal there with certain exams. So like, just focus on passing ACA. Loads of people are asking me now, what can I do? And I'm saying, pass your exams. Honestly, that's all they care about. While I was at RSM, I wasn't enjoying my time there anyway, just because the culture wasn't my kind of thing. I actually had, like I said, an internal recruiter from LinkedIn, from Deloitte, contacted me, and they just said, we've got some roles coming up. I was like, okay, cool, what is it? And then one of them was audit. I was like, okay, cool. She was in banking and capital markets. I was like, depends what it is and whatever. And she's like, it's an assistant manager position. At this point, I'd done less than 12 months in audit. So I was like, oh, that sounds good. So I just went for it. Ended up getting it, weirdly. And so I got an early promotion, weirdly. And and I'd wasn't even part qualified at that point. And so I went over, did my final few exams at Deloitte as the ACA graduate. And then as soon as I did my exams, I started looking internally. Well, at that point, I was like, I actually don't want to go into banking. I'll be real. I was like, I want to get back into buy side because it's more chill. And we're talking like COVID times now. Yeah. But I couldn't get anything in AM. So I was like, even though I've got experience, I couldn't get into it. But in my eyes, I was like, I've literally worked in there. I've got the IMC, because I did the IMC off my own back as well, like early in my career. I was like, I've got stuff going on, and at that point, I was like, I might as well do the CFA as well. But yeah, I couldn't get it. And I was like, you know what? I managed to move internally at Deloitte to a corporate finance team. Yeah. advisory team. So that was quite good. It was kind of annoying though, because I got offered a perm position just before Christmas. I accepted it. After Christmas, they were like, oh, so by the way, our restructuring business is getting bought out, and we're not a restructuring team, but because we're an M&A team, but we're like a UK PLC team, we're getting brought into that deal. So I was like, okay, what does that mean? They were like, yeah, so this isn't going to be a perm position, it's now an internship. I was like, are you joking? And audit wouldn't let me go until April because of busy season. So basically in that team, it was going to be just under a 2-month internship. And essentially they had a head count for me to move over, but then they were like, there was this girl who was part of a rotation program and been part of the team for 6 months, and she wanted to stay in that team. So now I knew I'm competing against this girl for this one position. And I was like, she's got 6 months on me. And I was like, and basically I knew I didn't get it because they started discussing new laptops and stuff. And I was like, well, my new laptop's not gone. And then I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, can we have a chat? Like, what's going on? This is like 4 weeks into my thing. And they're like, oh yeah, we want to chat to you. I was like, no, you don't. You're just scared. Well, let's just have it out. And they were just like, yeah, so we, unfortunately we can't do it. And we had to make a decision like 2 weeks ago. So I was like, oh, so basically I had to impress you in 2 weeks against someone who's got 6 months on me. I was like, I got no chance. So I went back to audit, and then I was like, I need to get the hell out. But I managed to get into Stifel after like 2 months after that. Like I said, the only reason I wanted to go to AM was because I didn't want to do the hours at that point in my life. But I was like, you know what? I've always said I wanted to do IB, let's just do it. And the reason I accepted Stifel is because I work in ECM and Public M&A. So it's private M&A is where you do a lot longer hours, I would say. We still can do long hours, but it's like more sporadic and it's more intense. So my job is loads more intense in terms of a deal than like a private M&A one. Private M&A can take 9 months, 6 to 9 months. My deals, public M&A is going to take a few months. So you're working so much more intensely. But public M&A is a lot more rare than private M&A. So there's less deals in that sort of sense. And one thing big for me, I wanted to be sector agnostic. So I was sector agnostic in this role as well. And yeah, I've been here for 3.5 years. So just been doing that.
Yeah, so you've answered a lot of our future questions if you love on our episodes. But one question I had, you've tried out a lot of fields, audit, IB, asset management. Did you ever have doubts about your ability to succeed in each of those fields, and how did you handle that feeling?
No. And the reason why, I'll tell you, is because it was after my first job. So you don't know what you're getting, like you've got a spring coming up, like you don't know what you're getting yourself into until you start, right? One thing you realize is that the technical stuff is stuff that you can learn fairly quickly if you've got that in your locker. Like the way that you've already got that job, you should have the technical ability anyway. Now, the other thing you need to succeed, in my eyes, is just common sense and logic. And one thing you realize is a lot of people don't have that. They have a lot. You can go to I worked with someone who went to the famous French business school. Is it HSE or something?
Oh yeah.
Like it's super smart dude. Like got CFA, all this stuff, right? Literally so dumb when it came to logic and common sense. Like taking advice from me, who was like 20 years younger than him. And I was like, yo, like how am I ahead of? Like you're so much smarter than me on paper. So once you realize that it's more about application rather than sort of just doing theory. Like that's when you sort of learn to smash it. Being proactive is key. Your attitude goes above anything.
It's one of the biggest lessons you've learned on the podcast. Textbook knowledge stops at a certain point, and experience trumps it. Common sense, as he said, ability to adapt instead of just knowing different scenarios that have worked in the past.
See, experience has a bit of weight, I do agree, but I feel like sometimes a lack of experience can give a fresh pair of eyes, and it can bring a completely different perspective into something. But experience is good as well. Like, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's the be all and end all. But yeah, I would just say like having the common sense. If you have common sense, I feel like you can get rid of that imposter syndrome, which I think you're trying to allude to. Yeah. So like, I mean, everyone has it to an extent. I'm going to a role now, so my role's starting in a few weeks' time, and I've never done the role before, and I'm going in as a manager.
Right. Okay.
Like there is a bit of me that's a bit scared, but I know that within a few weeks or a month or two, I'll be okay. just because I know that I'll get my head down and just work it out.
That's a really respectable trait, and then just your whole story, the fact that it's so varied is very rare in this industry, isn't it? But I guess taking a few steps back, because I know this episode is kind of more comparing buy side and sell side, with a bit more of a focus on sell side because that's your current role. But that one year you did on the buy side firm, could you just talk more about what you did, because a few of our viewers are interested in working in asset management, so could you just talk about what that entails?
Yes, no, of course, I'll go into it. So my first role for just under 2 years was middle office. So I was a reporting analyst. So essentially all I was doing was creating investment reports for institutional clients. So essentially what you have in asset management, you have your retail and your institutional. Retail clients are obviously like average people like me and you who just want to invest some money into some funds and get returns. And so they pool everyone's money together. And obviously you have to do reports for retail clients, but they're not as sophisticated. Now, with your institutional clients, you have your pension funds and things like that. So we had pension funds around the country that we had mandated on, so billions and billions of pounds. What we do is we take the money from the pension funds, and depending on the age profile of the pension fund, the fund manager will then invest in certain stocks, obviously riskier stocks if they're younger, or if they're looking just for returns, you'll go into sort of safer stocks when the age profile is older. What I did in that, I would literally get information from the performance team, from the PEG team, from product as well, and I'd amalgamate all that stuff into one report. So literally just copying and pasting data essentially, and then I would put it into a report, send it to the fund manager, I'd be like, can you just review this, and they'd add their commentary around blah blah blah, do this on a monthly basis, and then that would go to the client services team and the client relationship manager. They would then distribute that out to the relevant people, and that was my day to day in middle office. In my second role, which was front office, I was a relationship manager, but because it was such a small team, I was doing a lot more. I was doing sales as well, so sales, institutional sales, so that meant going along to conferences, trying to win clients in terms of their pension funds. We're trying to get them mandated their pension funds so that then we take care of their pension fund money and then we invest it. So that's what we were doing. I worked very closely with the investment team as well. So I know a lot of people want to get into investment analyst kind of role, and then become a fund manager. So that's the ordinary route. I would say it's almost it's mandatory to do the CFA now to land them kind of roles. I would say the best thing to do as a student to try and get that is maybe if you can do CFA level 1 off your own back. I'm not saying you have to smash out the whole CFA, but if you can do CFA, even just IMC, if you smash out IMC off your own back, because I think, so when I was doing it, they said 40% of CFA level 1 is the IMC. So if you can just show that you can pass that, that's a great barometer to be like, I've got this on my CV, I can go forward with this. But yeah, in my second role, I was literally meeting clients. I was going to Amsterdam and France once a month.
Do you prefer that than obviously copy and pasting, as you said?
Yeah, yes. Oh, yes, I did. But the only thing is when it sounds fancy, like going abroad and stuff, it's crap. Like it's great once or twice. You're like, oh yeah, I got to stay in a nice hotel. But then then it's like you're literally going. You just go there, have meetings, and if you're not having dinner with the client, then you just go home. And you're just getting the Eurostar like back and forth. And it's like, this is long.
I guess it's a nice thing to say to other people that for work how I went to Amsterdam. But yeah.
They're the roles that I basically did. But both of them included being very sort of in your internal stakeholders as well. Like I would say this is the key to any job, not just in asset management, is leveraging information from teams within. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people shy away from that, and I don't know why. A lot of the time you can standardize stuff internally and get it's like, for instance, if I'm gonna, I don't know, create like the best football team, I'm like, am I going to just train the kids? Sometimes you don't have the time to train. That's going to take a lot longer to train kids to be the best footballers in the world. Sometimes you're only there for like Jose Mourinho for 3 years, right? What are you going to do? I've got this much money. Yeah, I've got a few kids who are decent, but realistically, I've got 3 years. I need to go and get the best. Who's the best striker? Who's the best leader? Who's the best defender? Who's the best? And that's what you should look like when you're in these positions in companies. You haven't got time to do everything yourself all the time and be like, oh, this is going to be amazing sometimes you have to be like, right, what can you guys give me? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'll take the best bits from that. I'll take the best bits from that and put it all together. And I think that is key to a business, yeah.
Unrelated question. What football team do you support?
I'm a United fan.
God. Right, good. No, we should have started with that. Now I'm in a better mood. No, I'm joking. But I did want to, so you talked, thanks for that. And we're going to get into more buy side versus sell side a bit later on. But again, you've worked in so many fields. How did you handle it when you kind of felt out of your depth? When you're like, I know you talk about adaptation, but when you realise, well, I've got to adapt, how did you kind of lock in? What was your sort of process of like thinking, right, let me get my head down and
Asking for help, like being real, like. So I think I think everyone has superpowers. I think my biggest superpower is finding a solution to a problem. I always find solutions. I don't know what it is, but I just do it. For instance, I'll give you one example. When I was at Deloitte, I wasn't even part qualified, and they put me. Basically, there was a dormant company, like small audit, and this guy was leaving. He was like 2 years more qualified than me, and they said, Harry, I got the opportunity, and this is what helps you get promotion. They were like, Harry, do you want to do this company? It's a dormant company. Do you want to like just lead the audit on this? I was like, all right, calm, I don't mind. So I had 2 juniors, like even more junior to me, and I was junior. And I just had one partner above me, like, and he was the most senior partner in BCM Deloitte. Like he's I think the chair of the ICAW. Last year he just stepped down. So that's how senior this dude was. And that year, just my luck, they began trading. So it meant that I had to do a full-on audit. Yeah. And I was like, I've not got, literally at that point, I'm an assistant manager. I've not got a manager, a senior manager, a director. I've just got a partner and me. And I had two school leavers with me. And I was like, oh crap, I've never done a full audit before. And so what I did was, so in audits you have to get an external like director to essentially review stuff. I just was straight with that guy. I was like, yo, I'll be real, like the school leavers won't be able to do much, so I'm gonna do all the audit. I said, but then I'm sorry, I know you meant to only just review a couple of things, you're gonna have to review my work, like this is what's gonna have to happen. And he was like, okay, cool, that's fine. And we got around it that way, so it was fine. And I just told the partner, I was like, because the fee was tiny, he was like, if it was just me getting charged this client, I've only got 3 hours allocated to the whole client, and that's just him without me working on it. That's how small the fee was. And I was like, yeah, fair. He was like, just tell me the significant things and I'm just going to review them. I was like, okay, cool. They had an intercompany loan and 2 other things, revenue and something, a going concern. Okay, cool, I'll review those. We managed to get it done and it got sorted. Wow. But it was more about being able to think, right, I can't be solely liable for this, like, because I'm not even qualified. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's trying to find a solution that works for you. And sometimes you gotta humble yourself and drop your ego and just do it.
Okay, well, I think a question that's probably not directly linking onto this, but then more overall. So this is an industry that there's like it's confusing at times, especially for like students starting out. What is the buy side? What is the sell side? Yeah. What's investment banking? What's investment management? So, what were the biggest misconceptions that you had about investment banking? And then, could you just talk about them?
Yeah. So I actually got taught this on my corporate finance masters by someone who was an Italian dude who was on the board of an investment bank, and he was been in investment banking for 30 years. And he said something, and I was like, oh my God, he's right. He said, for the first 3 to 6 years of your investment banking life, you're going to be a monkey, just doing models, and that's all you're going to do. And he goes, after that, he goes, you're just a salesman. He goes, no one actually cares about WACC. No one cares about really what return to it, like in terms of how you're getting to that return. He goes, they just want to hear what they want to hear. He said the 2 things that you got to know if you want to be an MD, he goes, you just got to know restaurants where it's fancy food, like he says sushi's great because he says you're not going to get fat, and he says it's fancy. Yeah. And he goes, and also you got to know your wine list. You got to know your wines because he said that's how you're going to win the client. And he goes, clients, so say if you go to a company and you're like, they want to sell their company, what they want to hear is you're going to get the maximum money for their company. Much, yeah. Like, and I'm assuming you guys have done like models like DCFs or whatever, like it's garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
So literally, you just, as long as you make assumptions, you just state the assumptions. Like, you can do whatever the hell you want with that company, right? You can put their growth rate up to, I know it's like, it should be like 2-3% in perpetual growth, but I've seen one guy put it to 8%. I was like, yeah, I know. I was like,
that's the thing. Valuations, you can start at the valuation and then get it.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely did a goal seek and work backwards. But like, what I'm trying to say is like, I think the biggest misconception is that it is technical, don't get me wrong, but it's technical at the early stages, and then if you more senior you get, it's literally being a salesperson. It's more relationships and being a salesperson, and if you don't have that, you're not going to excel.
Would you say that's a skill you got good at, or you kind of naturally at?
Nah, so what I would say is, so my second boss, who was my favorite boss ever, he said to me, like, after I quit, he goes, the way you're going to love what you do and be good at what you do is first find an industry you genuinely are interested in. Whatever industry that is, could be football, could be, I don't know, media, whatever it is. And he goes, then be true to yourself. And he said, pick 3 characteristics that you are your strongest characteristics. And I said, and he was like, for you, for instance, he goes, number 1, you're smart, but you're not Einstein. I was like, all right, cool. And he goes, number 2 is you can create trust really quickly with meeting random people. And I generally can't remember what the third one was, but anyway, so I was like, so I think it was just natural to me. Like, I think I'm just good at gaining trust from people. The only thing is one thing you've got to navigate, not just in finance is at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? And we're all selfish. Like, no one's going to do something without wanting anything in return. Like, that's just the way we're built. So you have to know who you can be trustworthy with and not. And sometimes that's the hardest bit. And you're going to get, especially in my situation, like, I've been burnt a couple of times because sometimes I can be too trustworthy. Right, yeah. So, but you have to show that trustworthy side in order to build a relationship. So it's like a happy medium, and you just got to risk it.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that, for me, I was like, always been an introvert. For me, it was like, I'd keep the ball over the neighbour's fence, didn't want to go get it, sort of thing. Then I had to put myself in situations to actively combat that. For example, I started volunteering for a charity where I was like working with hostels, or I got a gym receptionist job, so I had to talk to customers from all walks of life, and start a podcast because I just didn't know how to adapt my.
But that's such a good thing to do.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. For a lot of students, they're like, oh, they just sick with the fact that I can't talk to people. I'm just going to do a foot tank.
But I'm an introvert as well. Like, I'm like, if you put me in a room, I'm not the type of person to be like, so there's certain times, sometimes I can do it, but there's some times where I'm put in a room and I'm like, I need to network, and I just go in there and I'm just like, I just can't do it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, you know what it is, when I see clumps of, like, groups of people, I'm like, I don't want to be the person to be like, hey, like, just butt in.
I hear what you're saying.
If there's like one person by themselves, I'll go over to them. But it's hard when it's like a group. So I get it.
Yeah. I think last question of the sort of part about your career progression, I'm going to move on to a bit more about working on both sides of finance. You spoke a lot about having to adapt. Again, I keep coming back to that. But was there a moment in your career where, like, this is super fulfilling to me? What's been like the most rewarding part of your career so far? Could be a project you've worked on, a deal you've kind of dealt, etc. That's a tough question.
No, it's tough because I generally don't think I've achieved anything in my life.
Really?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to answer that because I just don't, like, everything is subjective, right? Like, people might look at my CV and be like, wow, whatever.
True.
In my eyes, getting a degree, especially a maths degree, is a memory test. And I'm like, I've just memorized stuff. And, like, you ask me anything about my maths degree, the only thing I can tell you is my thesis that I did in my last year, right? My project thing. And I can just tell you the overview of that. Anything else, partial differentiation and stuff like that, you ask me to do that now, man, nah. And even my corporate finance degree, same thing. Memory test. Like, I'm just remembering things, really.
That's what it is at the end of the day.
But to me that's not it's a sign of memory. It's not a sign of being smart in my eyes. And I don't want to put that on anyone because because some people do value, and I totally get it. It's a great time. Like, I got emotional when I graduated my first time, and I don't know. I don't think it was an achievement thing. It was more the fact that I was like, in my head I was like, I don't have to do an exam anymore. But I mean, I did ACA and stuff like IMC and whatever. But yeah, I just don't see myself as successful at all.
Sorry to jump in with another question. Just off the back of that, do you have any regrets? Finance specific. That you're like, right, should I have taken that role? Should I? Again, I know it's a very bit of a loaded question.
No, I never have regrets on things that I've done, because otherwise I wouldn't be me. I think you can only regret things that you haven't done. So there are things that I didn't do, for instance, but not finance related. I think in finance stuff, like, I mean, I could have studied harder at my A-levels, which would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I could have been a director or MD. I know people who are my age who are MDs. I know it's very it's hard to do that, but I've seen one or two people do it, and I believe that I feel like I'm delusional, but I generally think if I put my head down at a bank at an early age, I'd be one of those people that could get to MD quick, just because of the way I am. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's generally like a great section that our viewers should rewatch. But then moving on to the next section, then working on both the buy side and sell side, of course, that's a very unique experience, you could say. So how do they differ in terms of work day to day? So working on the buy, I know it's a very broad question, even saying buy side and sell side, but how do they differ then?
I think the biggest difference is culture, and just hours and stuff is a lot different. Culture on the buy side is a lot more chill. It's a lot more, I don't know why, and maybe it's just because the bank I'm at, and maybe maybe if you work for because I work for a mid-market, if I work for a bulge, it's different. But I know people who have worked in bulges and now work at my bank, and I don't know, they don't come across as, they don't wear super nice suits. Only certain people do.
Yeah.
And I think that's just I thought it was a banking thing, but I think it's a personal thing rather than a banking thing, because when I worked on the buy side, a lot of people, seniors, used to wear super nice suits and dress really smart and whatever. And when I came to sell side, I was expecting more of that.
Yeah.
And if it's kind of not, and I don't know why.
Do you think it's because people are more caught up in their work?
No, I don't I sit a couple of MDs I work with. One of them literally worked at Bammel for 18 years, so he's come from a big dog, right? And I don't want to say tramp, but
we said enough now.
But no, I know, it's not that. But he doesn't look clean, or present. He looks okay. If I saw him in the street, I'd be yeah.
But not what you expect someone of his experience.
Well, no, when I worked in the buy side, my favorite boss, I told you, he'd walk. If you saw him in a room, you'd be he looks like a really senior dude, and he's got charisma and he had aura, right? And thing is, he was a bit of a big dog, but he gave that impression. Whereas this guy, he has done very well on his CV and whatever, and very, doing amazing. But if you saw him, you would not get that impression at all. And I don't know if that's just because it's the bank I work at, but there's not many people in my bank who have that sort of aura. And I felt on the buy side, I saw that more. So the culture's different. I feel you know what the real reason is why bankers work long hours? Is because, am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely.
So the way you get fees is completely different. So in asset management, you get management fees. So you get fees for managing money, right? So you get fee once you've won the mandate of a pension fund, or you've got retail funds which have got loads of billions of money in, you're just managing that money now. You're not there the only thing you're trying to impress is get your returns, right? You're trying to get the alpha. Now, if you're on the sell side, you only get your fees when a deal completes. So what you're doing constantly is licking arse to the client, right? Genuinely. So because what's going to happen is if you can't do it, they'll go to another bank who's also going to lick arse. So all the banks lick arse, and what happens is so a company will be so we want this from you, whatever. When can we see it by? They won't need it for a week, maybe, or a month. But your MD will say, we can get it to you tomorrow. and as if you're an analyst or whatever, and you just sit there and you're like, right, there goes my evening, there goes my sleep.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because it's like, you'll get all this work done, you go through iterations, your associate will check it, your VP will check it, then your MD will check it, we're all different, and it'll go on for like literally throughout the night and then the next morning and stuff, and then you send it through to a client, they'll be like, oh, thank you, and they won't get back to you for like a week, and you're just like, and generally that's my personal opinion, just being in it for a few years now, is it's why investment banking people do a lot longer hours than asset management.
Yeah, I appreciate you making it clean cut, because for a lot of students, including myself, it's kind of like too much bullshit in a way, you know what I mean? I wanted to ask, did your experience on one side help you perform better when you switch sides?
No. The only way it did is just being in a professional environment. Right. But I think that you could get that with any finance job. Yeah. So it's not really... The only thing it does help, like going from buy side to sell side, is I understand what investors are looking for. But I mean, you get that with it. So from a lot lower... So I joined as a senior analyst. So I think other analysts would not have the same experience as me in terms of being like, this is what an investor would look for in a certain stock. That's the only thing maybe that would help me. But yeah.
Cool. So last question on this specific section. So for students deciding between the buy side and sell side, what's the main factor they should consider, or some of the main factors they should consider?
Career progression and exit opportunities and culture and hours. Right. They're the main things. So in terms of career progression, right? A lot of people just think, so when people are looking at sell side, they just look at the private side bit. So obviously like what I do, for instance, like M&A and like ECM, DCM, that kind of stuff. So you do have that, but you also have on the public side, you can have sales, you have trading, you have all that side, equity research as well. So figure out what section you actually want to do, because it's not just M&A, right? On the buy side, it's kind of similar. So you have obviously your investment management route, investment analyst route, which goes into fund management, but then you also have things like institutional sales, or what I do, which is relationship management. So they're your front office kind of roles, and then you have sort of your middle office kind of roles, like I mentioned, like reporting or like performance and things like that, which can also pay, especially performance. That's a very decent role, and you won't do a lot of work in terms of hours, and it can be very handsomely paid. I would always say to people, and then going on to hours, I always say, if you want a wage per hour, is better at asset management, unless you're working for a bulge and you get onto like your director MD level. Like up until that, like your wage per hour is going to be better in a asset manager. So it depends what you value, man. Like if you're okay doing the next 3 to 6 years of your life, like working like a dog and being on call 24/7, that's the biggest takeaway as well. So for me, the reason why I'm switching jobs is because it's not because of the hours, because last 9 months markets have been crap. So I've been doing like 12-hour days, which actually isn't that bad in what I do. Yeah. But it's more the fact that I have to have my laptop and my phone on me all the time, even when I'm on holiday and stuff. With asset management, you can get away from that. You can have your downtime.
So you feel like you can't always switch off, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, certain people find a way to do mini switch offs, but I'm an all or nothing guy. Yeah, if I'm gonna do something, I'll do it properly, which means that I can't switch off. So
yeah, and especially with IB, I think what a lot of students who are trying to aim for it, they think it's, you're before 2008 IB, which is something that's completely different. It's become so competitive right now. So like a lot of these, the heavier hours, the more stress, it's and the compensation compared to like before 2008 doesn't really match up. So I think that's something that students should consider. But anyways, that's been like a really strong section on the whole finance aspect. Of course, we are a finance podcast, but then we know, of course, some of you guys may know Harry through his TikTok, and then he's got his own personal venture. So moving on to that, I guess talking about that, Harry, could you talk to us? Could you tell us about your activities outside of finance?
Yeah, so I do music. So I'm a hip hop artist and an R&B artist, songwriter, and basically just started doing it when I was at uni, just for a bit of fun. And then released a couple of songs on SoundCloud, got a following on SoundCloud, had meetings with small labels, always said no to them.
Yeah.
I got some, like, it wasn't like massive advances, but I was like, man, they were paying me money. I should have just taken it. I just didn't.
Yeah. Why?
I felt like I wasn't ready because I was just releasing remixes on SoundCloud. I wasn't doing any like songs. Like I was writing, well, I was, but I was just doing, I'd get a beat basically of a popular song. The way I'd built my SoundCloud thing, I was like, if a song just came out, so like Drake's just dropped a song, what I would do, I'd get that beat straight on YouTube, and within a day, I've written 2 verses to it and a hook, and I'll post it on SoundCloud. So then people will be like, they'll be like, oh, it's a remix to that, and then they'll hear me and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. So basically through that I built over a year. It was actually the year that I took out from just before I so just before I sort of came to London. So I had that year I had 8 meetings with labels and I said no. A lot of them said, oh, do you want to be the next, like there's a space for a Jay Sean. Yeah. And I was like, bro, I can't sing. Like, why are you doing this to me? And then basically when I moved to London, I was like, I actually want to do that properly. Yeah. But work got in the way, exams got in the way, and I never took it seriously, to be honest. Yeah. And you need to put time into it. And then when COVID came, started taking it a bit more seriously. And then 2021, I released a song that managed to get like me and the BBC introduced an artist for a week, got playlists on Basically Radio 1 Extra. And since that, for that next year and a bit, I dropped about 15 songs, and I think all of them got played on national radio, and I think 5 of them got playlisted. Wow. So I was like, okay, cool. But the issue I've had is I can't market. Like, if you look, I've got no following on anything, and like I don't have a following on Spotify, and it's annoying because I'm just like, my music's good. Like otherwise it won't get played on 1 Extra and stuff. So it's annoying because I'm like, I've got that, but I just don't have the marketing. So I've never really been able. But now, stepping back into sort of a more 9-to-5 kind of role, I'm hoping I can put more time into that. And then my other venture is with my girlfriend and business partner, which is Mirum. And basically we started it when we actually started dating. Oh, wow. So yeah, basically I met her, and after 4 dates I was like, do you want to start a business? She was like, you're crazy. It was only through because basically I'm really good at planning things. Yeah. So I planned a couple of decent dates, and then she planned the 3rd one, and it was sick. Best day I've ever been on in my life. Yeah. And that's when I was like, and then I said to her, I was like, people always ask me where to go in London. And she's like, oh yeah, people always ask me too. And I was like, oh, we can make money from this. So that's where I was like, okay, cool. And then we spent basically 2 years developing it from ground up. Got a developer in because it had to be a bespoke website, cost a lot of money. And now we launched it last year, but we just, like anything that I do, I don't put enough time into marketing because I ain't got the time. So literally we've literally made, I'd say, about 100 sales in a year, which is crap. But this year we do have a festival, which we managed to get onto. So we're at Taste of London. That's exclusive, actually. We're not announced it. Oh, sick. But we'll let you know. No, you can. We're at Taste of London this summer, so that's 50,000 people going to be there at Regent's Park. So if you guys are down, just come along, and we'll treat you right.
We'll link everything in the bio.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be there, and I'm just really trying to push forward. Like, I've started LinkedIn 2 weeks ago on Mirum, and just trying to push it out now, because you only get one shot at life, man, and I don't want to have no regrets about it.
We're looking forward to seeing more of it. Seen loads on LinkedIn recently, but looking forward to seeing more of it. I want to ask, how do you, you kind of touched on it, but how do you balance it? There's so much going on in your life: finance, music, entrepreneurship, everything else, personal stuff. How do you find a way to balance all these passions?
You will always find time for things that you actually want to do and love, whatever that is in life.
But practically, what does that look like?
Well, so I used to be a gym dude when I was at uni, and then I got injured after uni. So I lost loads of muscle mass, to be fair, lots of weight. And I'm trying to get back to the gym now, and that's been hard as well. So that's taken a backseat, but I'm going to, with my new job, hopefully have more time for that. But it's just, like I said, you just have to be disciplined, and I'll be honest, you have to sacrifice certain things. So I don't see my friends as much as I should. I'm quite a loner in that sense. I have loads of friends, but I don't have, and I always said I never have best friends because I just don't make the effort to see them like chill, whatever. I'm just like, sorry man, I'm doing this. So you always, anything you do in life, you always have to sacrifice something. Even if you sit on your ass at home, you're sacrificing your talent, you're sacrificing your future. And if you are like you look at footballers, they start at such a young age, they sacrifice their childhood for that. So you always have to sacrifice something. I've sacrificed friendship and family in order to try and reach my dreams.
That's really real. I don't think a lot of students try and do too much, and then everything is like, what's the word? It's not 110%, and everything is that everything's like 20%.
But I'll be real. I had like, you know what? If I could, I've cut down. Believe it or not, I've cut down on the things I was doing. Like in COVID, I almost started a clothes brand. Like I literally had everything in place. And I was like, I need this much money to put into it. I was like, realistically, how am I going to do this? I was like, I've got my music going. I was like, I'm being dumb. So you have to, I'm like, I've got so many future business plans, but I'm going to make Mirum work first. See where this thing goes with this finance stuff. I don't know what else I'm going to have with that. If I can make it to a YouTube thing, I'll be real, right? If I was like 4 or 5 years younger, I would have started YouTube and maybe I wouldn't have gone to uni. Because I feel like, I always say, if you want to do something in life nowadays, you can literally do as long as you've got a phone and access to internet, you can literally do whatever the hell you want to in life.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because not many people have that. It's not similar, is it? Like music and finance, they're kind of two different worlds. So the fact that you've delved in both of them and you're succeeding in both of them is really like nice to hear. But then moving on to the last section of this episode is just more plans, what your personal plans for the future are, and then just some tips for students. So I guess to kick that last part of the episode on, what does the future look like for you now? I know you mentioned that you're moving on to a new job, but then what's the future looking like for you then?
I want my music to blow. When I say I'm going to do stuff, I do it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So
I love that.
No, man, I just got to keep grinding, man. And the thing is, you got to listen. If you keep beating it, like if you literally keep going the same way and you keep charging against the door the same angle and you're not getting through, you're never going to succeed. You need to be able to listen to other people and be like, okay, what do I need to improve? What do I need to do here? And like, if you don't do that, you need to listen to people. You need to take advice on board, but you need to be strong-minded at the same time. It's weird. Like you have to have a balance of that. But like, I remember when I started about 7 years ago, I said, I'm going to sell out the O2. And so I'm going to sell out the O2 one day. Yeah. And not the small one. I'm going to sell out the big one. So 20,000 people. I will sell it out. I don't know when, but I will do it. And then I just want to have loads of businesses, man. I want to have so many businesses.
So I'm hearing Empire.
Yeah, I mean, I literally put Empire Building in my WhatsApp status like 10 years ago, whatever it was. I want to be the richest and most famous person on the planet in order to help people. That is literally my goal. Yeah. Like, it's not, I don't want to be the richest and the most famous people to be like, hey, I'm the shit. That's never been me. That's just, but it's just not me. Yeah. The reason I want to do it is to have influence, and I really want just people to live happy. At the end of the day, happiness is all you leave life with. Yeah. So live life to be happy. Whatever makes you happy, do that shit. Whether it is getting money, do that shit. Yeah. Or whatever it is, fucking do that. That's what I would say to people.
Well, it is time, unfortunately, bittersweet, for the last 3 questions we ask every guest. So I'm going to kick things off. I'm still in the advanced question. This is an advanced question. But looking back at your career journey, your personal journey, your life journey, education, whatever you want, what are you most proud of?
Like I said, I'm not proud of anything I've done so far, genuinely.
I hear what you're saying.
But I would say finding a person such as like my girlfriend, who I'm not currently with at the minute, but someone like that who understands what I need.
Yeah.
I think that is so hard to find. And to me, that is the biggest achievement.
Wow. It's the best answer we've got, to be fair. I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, and then I guess kind of on that note then, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't give a shit about what other people think.
Yeah.
That's so common, but it's true, man. Like, people are gonna find you cringe, whatever the fuck. Like, yeah, like it's only cringe until you start popping and start blowing. Then it's not cringe. Then people are just like, yo, I know that guy. I knew him from school. Up until you get there, like people are going to find you cringe, man.
I'm not saying we're popping, but when we started, I mean, no one you can vouch for this. The amount of friends from our school that was like, why are you guys doing this? You're not going to help anyone. And then a year later, a trademark later, a relaunch later, we've got so many people called interns working for us because we've helped them get it.
You honestly keep going, because what you guys are doing is amazing. And like one thing, so you know my channel, the HP Does Life one, none of my friends know about it.
Really?
No one followed that. I started that up completely independently.
Yeah.
No one that I know follows me. Like actually in person, because I was like, I'm just going to do this so independently and just trying to be organic as I can. So yeah.
Love that. Well, I'll unfortunately get to ask the last question of the episode, but it's been an amazing episode. Really appreciate you giving your time up. But what's the biggest takeaway you hope listeners get from your story? Your continuous...
That everyone has their own path. And one thing that has actually really annoyed me with a lot of people who have been messaging me on my TikTok account is the amount of people that I feel like give up so easily. Please do not give up. Like, I am testament. If you want something bad enough, you will get there. Like, you will find a way. There is always a way for everything in life. And you just have to be persistent and listen and change. If you feel something's not working, don't keep using that same tactic. Think about, it doesn't have to be a dramatic change, but you can literally be whatever you want to be. Like, if I wanted, like I always said I wanted to work at JPM or whatever. If I want to, I could do that right now.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely I could.
Yeah.
It's not where I'm now in life. It's not where I want to do. My main thing was to get into IB, and I've done that. But genuinely, like, do not give up. People say, I'm doing this degree at uni. Am I cooked? You know how many times people have said, am I cooked? Am I cooked? And I'm like, bro, you're not cooked. Like, just chill them. Fuck up. Like, but like I've said, if you can't get in straight away, genuinely, just do audit.
Yeah.
It's going to suck for 3 years, but you'll get a qualification out of it, and you're almost guaranteed to get into IB.
Well, that's the clip for the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, listen, Harry, thank you. I mean, can I ask the last question? How old are you? For our listeners that don't know.
Over 30, that's what I'm saying.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It is super inspirational for someone that's over 30.
Apparently I look younger than I am, so I'm just gonna leave it at that, man.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question. I thought you were younger. But anyway, it's still super inspirational, and I want to thank you for your time.
No, I appreciate it.
Or anything you want to add?
No, I think it's just overall just the difference in experience you have is just something that I've learned from in this episode, and hopefully our viewers can as well.
Yeah, 100%. I'll definitely be watching this one. But for our viewers, if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed already, but you like this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly episodes or regular meaningful uploads that help you break into financial services. If you listen to us, drop us a follow on there. You can drop us a comment on either platform and show us love and engagement on our social media platforms as well. See you again next week for another episode of the Smart Money Show. And thanks for watching.